Good evening. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for coming tonight. Before we get started, I want to remind you all that we have emergency exits in this room. You all know where they are. Right over here. Go straight out. There's an emergency. And then there are exits here. There are also exits toward the back. And I think you can even get out this way too. Okay. So my name is Ursula Olander. And I'd like to, well, I'm the executive director for the Center for Careers and Internships, and I'm very excited to see all of you here tonight. We have a few things to go over with you to get you ready for your summer. But first, I'd like to introduce the internship team. You've been talking and corresponding with many of these folks throughout the process of applying for funding. So let me put the names with the faces for you. So first, I want to introduce Cheryl Whitney Lauer. Cheryl. And we have Charles Caldwell over here. We have Karen White, who many of you will get to know very well over the course of summer and hopefully not into the fall. If she's talking to you in the fall, that means you're in trouble. I'll try to be nice. Tracy Himmel Isham and Amy McGlashan. And you know me, Ursula. So huge congratulations to all of you, to each of you on receiving your internship offer and being selected for CCI funding. This year, we received 217 applications for competitive CCI internship funding, up from 197 last year. In addition, 90 of you have been awarded funding to support conflict transformation, MidWorks for Vermont, and CCI select internships with Middlebury alumni and friends of the college. Altogether, CCI is supporting more than 280 students in their summer experiences this year. And there are a few people that don't add up in there. There's a group of students who will be working for Dog Team Theater Project this summer, 15 of them that will be receiving CCI funding as well this summer. Your funding is made possible thanks to the generosity of Middlebury alumni donors who believe in the value of experiential learning through internships. Each summer, CCI administers approximately $1 million in donor and institutional funds across more than 50 designated funds. Each fund supports a specific example. I just want to give you a couple of examples of what these funds support. The Katy Town Hall Theater Fund supports internships at Middlebury's Town Hall Theater. Do we have any folks in here doing an internship at the Town Hall Theater? Yes. The Matthew Benedict Fund honors Matthew by supporting, well, let me say the Matthew Benedict Class of 15 Fund honors Matthew by supporting internships related to brain research, particularly involving concussion and traumatic brain injury. Do you have anyone doing brain injury research or work this summer in the room? Might be abroad. I know we have a couple supported by that fund. The Jack Langerman Class of 19.5 Fund supports internships across fields with a preference for students who embody Jack's spirited character. Those of us know Jack, who knew Jack, definitely appreciate people with that type of character. So we are deeply grateful for our donors and proud to invest these resources in your growth. And I want to just talk to you a little bit about internships. You already understand the importance of internships, but it's worth repeating. Real world experience matters. It allows you to apply your liberal arts education and helps you ensure you're career ready by graduation. As you begin your internship, keep in mind the learning goals you outlined in your funding application. Use this time to build your technical skills like data analysis, design, coding, whatever it might be, and soft skills like communication, teamwork, and problem solving. Internships are also a great way to explore career paths, to discover what excites you and what doesn't before you commit to a full-time role. Take advantage of opportunities to connect with professionals at your organization, schedule coffee chats, ask questions, and seek out advice and mentorship. And finally, we're here for you. Remember that the entire CCI team is here to support you all summer long. These folks and the folks back in the office. Some days will be exciting, others might feel overwhelming. There are going to be a lot of emotions that you experience over the course of the summer, and we want you to celebrate your successes, and we want to be a resource for you when you feel stuck. Internships are all about learning, and we're here to help you grow through every challenge. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. So now I'm going to turn over the mic to Cheryl.
Everybody, it's so great to see you. We're so excited for all the internships that you're doing. So the purpose of this session is to give you resources, tips, and information to help you be most successful in your internships. Topics that we're going to cover tonight include preparing for your internship, maximizing that experience, navigating tricky situations when you need to. We'll also go over grant requirements, how to post your midsummer reflections, recommended resources, and what to do when you need help, as Ursula mentioned already. At the end of the meeting, you'll all complete a career readiness assessment. It's very short, which you'll complete again after your internship to show any changes in your development over the course of the summer. Students watching this meeting on the recording will be sent the link to that survey. So I'd like to give you all a sense of the breadth of experiences you are all taking part in this summer. As you can see from the slideshow up on the screen, internships come in all shapes and sizes. These photos are all from your peers, previous Middlebury students who have done internships. Your internships this summer are also amazingly varied. You're doing everything from using GIS skills to map out mosquito density in Addison County, to working in Hollywood, to working in the European Parliament, to working at local nonprofits in your hometowns and neighborhoods. A handful of you are doing remote internships, but most of you are doing in-person internships. And here's where you'll be geographically spread out all over the US and the world. You're in South Africa, Switzerland, Slovakia, Spain, Bali, Bulgaria, Belgium, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, Norway, Vietnam, Kenya, Canada, China, New Zealand, Morocco, United Kingdom, France, Thailand, Ukraine, El Salvador. Might have skipped one or two. In the US, you're in Chicago, Boston, New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Washington, DC, and in states from Alaska to Vermont, from Texas to Oregon, Minnesota, Tennessee, New Mexico, Florida, Maine, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and more. Now, for the types of experiences that you're having, or what we like to call who's in the room. When I call out the type of internship you have, please stand if you are able, otherwise raise your hand. And many of you will be in more than one group, so you'll need to get up multiple times. So I'm going to call this out. This is one of the interactive parts of the session. So who's working in Vermont this summer? Stand up. Stand up. You can sit down. Who's going to be interning internationally? Outside the room. Who's going to be in a big city? Who's going to be in a rural location? Okay, who's going to be working in a lab or doing scientific research? Who's working as an EMT or doing something related to medical or health fields? Who's doing an internship or experience related to arts, music, theater, or film? How about teaching, working with children, or something else education related? Journalism, communications, marketing, or public relations? Who's involved working in social services, such as working for a nonprofit or an NGO? How about business, finance, or startups? Working in museums, historical research, or archive work? How about law, policy, politics, or government? Anything sports related? Okay. How about consulting? Okay, data analysis or technology? Environmental issues, climate change, conservation, food and agriculture. And who in the room got a first-year Explore grant? And then there are all the people who are studying abroad as well, who will be watching this recording later. So I'm sure I didn't hit all the categories, but you get the idea. We're so excited to be able to support you in whatever interests you as you explore new fields, build new skills, contribute to your organizations and to causes that are important to you. And as you're figuring out what you want to do, what kind of impact you want to have in the world. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about preparing for your internship and goal setting. Before you start your internship, take some time to read up on the organization and learn as much as you can about that organization. What are their priorities and what are their current initiatives? Next, ask your supervisor if there's anything you could read so that you can hit the ground running. You can ask them what they read to stay current in the field. If you're going to another country, definitely make sure you research that country and the region you're going to. And it's even important wherever, if you're going someplace new, that's important too. So remember when you applied for funding, you submitted an application and you wrote an essay and you told us about your goals for the internship. Look back at those goals or take some time to think about what you want to get out of the summer. What skills do you want to develop? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to explore and learn? Share those goals with your supervisor. They don't know what your goals are for the internship unless you've told them, and they don't know what you want to learn unless you tell them. Sometimes a supervisor will kind of restructure the internship or add on different parts based on your interests, but you have to communicate with them. They might even include you in meetings based on what you've said your interests are. They might not think to invite you to meetings. So really communicate with your supervisor. And it's good to have those conversations either before or at the beginning of your internship. Also ask your supervisor what their expectations are for you. What do you want to learn? What do they want you to learn, contribute to, and what projects will you be involved with? And what are the deliverables that they're expecting from you? How does your supervisor like to be communicated? How often will you meet? Tell them that you'd like to talk about your progress, your strength, and areas for improvement on a regular basis. Don't be afraid of feedback. Getting constructive feedback can help you learn and grow. Also, keep track of your projects as you go along and what you've accomplished. You can share these with your supervisor on a regular basis too, and it's also a good record for you. All of these tips have to do with communication. Finally, go in with a growth mindset and be the intern who stands out, is curious, takes initiative, contributes to the organization, to the research you're doing, or to the work that you're taking part in. Some of you are about to embark on your first internship, but we know that others of you have done multiple internships in the past, and there's a lot of wisdom in this room and abroad, rest of you students. For those of you in person, we're going to be doing an exercise next that's going to help you share some of those experiences with others. So now I'm turning it over to Amy McCullough.
So for how many of you is this your first internship? Okay. For how many of you is this your second? And then 3 or more? There is a lot of wisdom in this room. That's awesome. Great. So this is the exercise related to the handouts we have. So while we just inspired you with all the wonderful things that you're getting set out to do, now we're going to sort of say, but there are going to be inevitably, like in life, bumps that you might hit, possible scenarios that may occur. Those of you who have had internships, maybe you've already experienced some of these, and you're going to have some wisdom to share. First, we're going to take a minute. So one page is called the internship scenarios. And those are all things that have happened. We've gathered these from evaluations, from conversations, from work that we've done with students over the years in our office and running this program. So these are actual scenarios that have happened more than once. And don't spend a lot of time. I'm going to give you time to review them. And you'll have about 1.5 minutes to sort of think through, oh, what would I do in that? Just sort of like what comes to the top of your head to consider. And I would say for many of you, particularly if this is not your first, but even if it is, the first thing that may occur to you, your gut is probably right, unless it's avoidance. In which case, that's not really your gut. Your gut is telling you something else, but your mind is saying avoid. Anyway, the point is that you are resourceful enough. We know you are, because you're Middlebury students. You're resourceful enough to do some of these. That's why we're funding you, because we trust you have the leadership, initiative, resilience, drive, motivation to work through some of these issues. However, we also have collective wisdom, not just in the room, but over the years. So the other sheet is our tips. This is just one set of tips. I will tell you that when Cheryl shares with you later the Experiential Learning Lifecycle Hub, the website, blog that you're going to be contributing to, there's a whole section on resources, and there are a ton of tips in there. And also, in the meantime, our communications aficionado who does great work with social media, and she'll be posting tips throughout the summer that may be useful. So there are lots of ways to find tips. But at any rate, many of these are good germs of, not germs, kernels. Sorry, germinating. You could call them germs, I suppose. That could give you answers or suggestions or ideas for how to address some of these scenarios. So we're going to first spend just a minute or so by yourselves, looking at the scenarios, and then looking through the tips and thinking how might address them. Then when I call out, you're going to share with somebody next to you, and you're going to each have about 3 minutes to share a couple of the scenarios and what you think you might do. And then the person's going to respond, and then we'll switch. So then the partner will do the sharing and the other person will respond, and I'll help keep track. Any questions on the instructions? Pretty straightforward. All right, so I'm going to give you about 1.5 minutes or a minute and to spend, actually maybe a little more, but anyway. So go ahead and start with your own process right now. Okay, we'll wrap it up. How was that? Good, useful? So we got mics. We would love to hear a little bit about how those conversations went. What I would love to start with whoever's willing, is what do you think is like really one of the most likely scenarios? What do you think happens like often? Let's hear from someone who spent a lot of time talking about one that's you think is probably pretty common, and what answers you guys came up with. And say your name, please, just quickly.
Hi.
Hi.
So I often tend to overthink what I communicate with people or what I don't communicate. So everything on the paper is basically connected with communication, and
It is.
it just emphasizes how important communication is. Yeah, so if there's anything I struggle with, communicate with either you, my supervisor, or people around me. And I don't think it applies to everything, basically. Even if I think it's a stupid question or if it's a stupid thing, I don't know, but it's an internship and I'm here to learn, right? So I think that's what I took away from the conversation.
Great. Nice job. Yep. And remember, one thing I quickly meant to say earlier, which is this is not class. You are not working for a faculty for a grade. This is a mutual relationship where they know this is as much about your benefit and your learning as it is what you're contributing to the organization. So absolutely, communication is key if you're going to make it work for you. That's exactly right. How about another one? Another one that you think is really likely to happen. Maybe not to you, but that's very common. Thank you. Up front here. Okay. That one and then you. Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So one thing that I've noticed in my internships, is sometimes if I don't know how to do something, it's really hard to ask your supervisor, like moving forward for advice or like, I don't know how to do this. So kind of to prepare for that, I, have worked for 3 hospitals now where they have training videos and like technique videos on programs or like, protocols. So that's always really helpful, preparing for your internship. But if you're in the moment, don't know how to do something, it's okay to not know how to do something and it's okay to ask for help. So they'd much rather you ask for help than like doing something crazy. So.
Great, great double answer. There are lots of resources. LinkedIn Learning has a ton of videos if you can't find them elsewhere. We have some, I think, on the one, right? Yeah. And then likewise to ask, and if your supervisor's not around, maybe somebody else who might be available. Exactly. Yeah, well done. Go ahead. Yep.
Definitely very similar, but I was had an internship last summer in working in GIS and had no idea how to use any of the GIS software. Don't even know how I got the internship really, but it was a learning experience. And the biggest thing that helped me get through the whole thing was just being open about like, hey, I don't really know what's going on with this. Can you offer me some help? And again, using those training videos and asking from help from the peers and also from the people facilitating the internship.
Awesome. And did your supervisor appreciate that you actually showed initiative that you didn't know and that you were looking for the resources you need?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I won the most improved intern at the end of the summer. So
I think that's the lesson in those two, which is, and your supervisors actually appreciate and notice when you take that kind of initiative as opposed to pretending that you do and trying to fake your way through. So enough said about that. I think that's evident. Maybe, how about one that's maybe a little less popular? Or whoever wants to go next for anything. There's a hand up there. Thank you, Charles. What do you got?
Sorry. I'm Karina, and I've actually gone through the oh no, what if I get bored scenario a lot in my head. And I
worried?
No, not this time, but in the past,
Oh, okay.
I've thought internship is a very scary word. And I think that a lot of the time the word internship can come with this image of a beige wall that you're going to be staring at. And I think that kind of the key to the what if I'm bored question is building whimsy back into your life. It's very hard to have a horrible day if you're taking your notes in colored pencils. Like, even if the only bits of joy that you can like build into your day, even if you're dreading the rest of it, if you like find a song that like hypes you up while you're walking to your internship, like finding like things that you can put in between those moments, I think is really key to like enjoying your internship, even if it isn't something that you think you're gonna want to take with you to the rest of your life. Like, that's a learning experience too.
Okay. All right. I'm just gonna throw the question out. What are some other things that, what are other answers that people came up with for, if you get bored? You don't have enough to do. Anybody? Anybody? Come on. Thank you. I want at least one answer.
It might be a little different in my scenario because I'm doing the arts, but I've had the experience where if you're doing something creative, you're allowed to ask, hey, can I work on this project that's outside of this? Or is there some way we can connect what we're doing here to a more creative outlook? And that's what I found I've been able to do, making a video or making some sort of art. Just when you're working on things that you just don't feel that connected to, it's a good thing to reach out and say, hey, I have an idea. Can we work on this?
Yep. Going back to communication. Sometimes, particularly for, there's some supervisors where they might be their first time, or they're almost as new to the organization as you are, or they don't know what you're capable of. And so they're going to try to give you maybe less rather than more at the beginning. And so again, don't be afraid to ask for more to do and to have that conversation that Cheryl talked about your interests, because then more than likely you can pick up a project that would still be of benefit to them, but that is also of interest to you. That's exactly right. Great. There was another hand over there, and then we do one more and then wrap up.
Yeah, that was basically what I was also going to say, but
I'm gonna let you say it, darn.
but just like making sure to communicate to your supervisor like what you're actually interested in and what you want to do, so that if they put you on a project that you're not as interested in, you can like not have to continue doing the similar kind of things over and over again.
Great. Yeah, one more. Oh, good. Yeah, if you've got.
Can
a
I
comment,
just
please.
make a note of that?
Yeah.
Like, one thing that we're actually communicating to your supervisors is to acknowledge goals that you're setting out for yourself and that they're setting out for you for the summer. So you all wrote goals, at least 3 goals in your applications. Now, they may be different than the goals that your internship supervisor has for you, but it's really good to have that communication so that you can work on those and they can acknowledge helping you and mentoring you.
Great. How about one more, just of anything? Yeah, thank you. Oh. Or, okay, 2 more.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
About boredom, I often get really bored by a lot of things, but I treat boredom more. Boredom for me isn't a burden as much as it is an opportunity. If you're bored, that means A, you're really good at something and that's boring you, or B, you at least know that something is really boring, which means that you probably can do something else. And in a work kind of environment, that means that you can probably go to your supervisor and say, hey, this is like really boring and that's not what I signed up for. And they can either say no and you will continue your doing more, or most likely they'll say, oh, okay, and do something else. So always, for me, treat boredom as kind of a step into the right direction and not looking back in the boring direction.
Great. Yeah. Answer. Even if it's colored pencils. That's right. All right, last one. Bring us home.
One thing that I found, if you're doing an internship where your work is determined by like what projects you're staffed on, if you're in like a lull or on the beach, you can a lot of companies will have training modules that they pay loads of money for. And if you just ask to do training, and they'll see that you're taking initiative to learn more, and then you'll be more likely to get staffed on things. Also just going out to literally have coffee with your coworkers and just meet them and get to know them will help out a lot in the long run.
Awesome. All good. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I hope it at least sparks some thinking. And by all means, use the time between now and the beginning of your internships. And for those of you who are, some of you are going to be working at some of you are going to be working in internships with another person, with the other students. So use that time to bounce off of each other, support each other around these kinds of things, because obviously they will come up. But well done, nicely done. And good luck.
Okay, now Charles over here is going to drive. He's going to go on to the Experiential Learning Lifecycle Hub, and I'm going to just walk you through that. So this is a resource that was developed for Middlebury students, and it was created by Middlebury faculty and staff members with help from D-Link, which is our Office of Digital Learning. So it's called the Lifecycle Hub because it provides you with resources, which are mostly short articles and videos to help you prepare for and navigate your internship. It also provides opportunities to reflect before, during, and after your internship, what we call the life cycle of your experience. So research shows that if you reflect on your internship while you're doing it along the way, you're gonna, and you think intentionally about what you're learning, what you've accomplished, what mistakes you've made, where you want to go from here, that you're going to learn more. It's going to be a deeper experience for you. So in our internship program, we've baked reflection into this program. So when you applied for funding, we asked you to write an essay, which was kind of a pre-reflection about what you want to get out of the internship and what your goals are. Midway through the internship, you're going to write a reflection on a blog site, on this blog site. And then at the end, you're going to do your evaluations, which also includes some reflection. So Charles, if you can go to the resource section first. This is broken down into 4 different boxes: getting ready for your internship, the being and doing, which is during the internship, the learning, which is kind of looking more deeply, and then bringing it back to Middlebury. So you can open any of those, but we're just going to go to the learning first. And different sections here. So go down, Charles, to the skill building. And we had talked about the LinkedIn Learning. So that's one of those. You can click on that. You can get to these tutorials. So if you're teaching and you want some tips on classroom management, or your supervisor asks you to build a website, you can probably find stuff in there. There's another one about networking, making that work for you, what happens when you make a mistake. So all of those boxes are full of resources for you. So next you can go to the reflection section. And it talks about reflection, and then you get to these 3 boxes, and in these boxes are reflection prompts. So I would say midway through your internship, you're going to go to either the during experience or the after experience. It doesn't matter which ones you pick. So Charles, yeah, just go there. Scroll down a little bit. So like the last one is, what is the essence of the work you are engaged in, and why does that matter to you? So you can just read these reflection prompts, pick one that speaks to you, and you're going to write your reflection about that and post a photo with it. Students have told us that by doing these reflections and reading other students' posts, they stop to think about what they're learning so far and what they want to get out of the rest of the summer, that they learn to navigate a tricky situation and approach a new experience. Charles, you want to go, down to, once you post your reflection, it's going to look like this on the index. And we're going to pick Cyrus. Yep, we're going to pick Cyrus, who did a winter term internship working on Dive in South Africa. So there's his reflection. And then you can read these other posts and you can comment on each other's posts. So you'll find out what other students are doing. Sometimes it'll give you ideas about internships or jobs you want to apply to in the future. You'll learn something as you go along. So we're going to enter you all as users by the beginning of June, and we'll send you the link and instructions for how you're going to do that. Okay, so now we're going to go on to grant requirements and some logistics. Because you're all accepting funding or sponsorship from CCI, you have some obligations. So you all signed the internship agreement form, whether you know it or not. So if you didn't read that form, you need to go back to go/summer funding and find the internship agreement, because that has important information that you've agreed to. And some students have gotten in a little trouble before because we say that was all in the internship agreement. So first of all, you can't switch to a different internship. You can't transfer your funding. You have to complete the hours and the days that you said you were going to do. If you have small changes, you can email those to internships@middlebury.edu, and Karen will respond to you. If there are large changes, you need to check in with a staff member at CCI. And then if we are going to write to your supervisors on Thursday, so if any of you put in the name of a supervisor and you already know that person has changed, or you know you got the wrong email, please write to Karen White and give her that information so we can be sure that that letter goes to the right supervisor, and that's the person who's going to evaluate you at the end. A couple of reminders. If you're traveling internationally, a lot of you haven't completed the travel registration form. So check with Karen, who's right over there on the side of the room, if you aren't sure, and she can walk you through that. And then money, I know you're all interested in that. So for those of you who are getting grants, your money should be in your account by June 6th, but we're hoping it's actually earlier, probably by the end of May. So if you don't get money and you hear of everybody else getting their money, or you haven't gotten it by June 6th, then you need to reach out to the accounts payable office. We can't see your banking information. So the requirements for this summer, I've talked about that mid-internship reflection, and then there are 3 items that you have to do at the end of the internship. And these are going to be submitted on mid-apply. You're going to do an evaluation, and your supervisor is going to do an evaluation. You're going to write a letter to the donor who funded your internship and tell them about what you learned, what you did. And then you have to submit a photo that represents your internship. So you've seen all the photos, that slides that we showed you at the beginning. That gives you an example of a good photo. If you're going to have children in the photo, please don't show their faces. You can take a photo from, from the back or something like that. We have to have permission to use your photo. And we are going to write to you over the summer with all these reminders. And then my last point for international students before I pass it on to Tracy, if you are an international student on an F1 visa and you're doing an internship in the US, you must apply for curricular practical training, which is also called CPT. And that includes signing up for the Middlebury Summer Fieldwork course. So if you haven't already done this, go to the CPT website. And if you have any questions, reach out to ISSS. And then Tracy Himmel-Isham is our liaison for international students in that office. So if you have any questions, you can catch her at the end of the meeting or email her. And now I'm turning it on to Tracy for the last section.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right. All right, we're almost, I'm going to bat this out of the park now. Okay. I know you guys all want to go to dinner and so forth. We're going to make this quick because there's one last thing that we're going to ask you to do before you leave this room. And it's part of the requirement, which is a career readiness inventory. Okay. And we're going to call this what it is, which is what we want to do is assess an inventory of how you perceive your skills to be, or what those skills are. Okay. And it may not seem super important for you right now, but when it's time for you to go look for a job, when you're leaving Middlebury, it's going to be super important for you to be able to translate your skills into the skills that an employer is looking for. Okay. Does that make sense? So what we did is we went through all 280 of your applications, your funding applications. And there was a prompt there that said, name 3 goals that you want to achieve during your internship this summer. Okay. And we took those goals and we put them into themes. And this is how they turned out. Okay. The majority of your goals fell within the theme of professionalism, community service, and education, okay? And what we did is we took those themes and we related those to the career readiness competencies, which is part of the National Association of Colleges and Employers, which is the biggest organization that assesses, talks to employers to find out how ready graduates are in the workplace. Like, how career ready are they in the workplace, okay? So these are the competencies. Yeah. These are the competencies. There are 8 main competencies or skills that NACE is assessing with graduates. These are the competencies that we know employers are looking for. And they're also the competencies that we know all of you are getting here at Middlebury, okay? You are walking through all of these competencies in your classes, in your academic classes. When you do a group project, that's called teamwork, right? It's actually teamwork. So the next time you go to interview with an employer and they ask you a question about teamwork, you might give an example of a group project you did in a class. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to like close this gap between the language that you use in your academic setting to the language that employers are using in the workplace, all right? So if you go to the next slide, and this is going to be, we'll put this in the Life Cycle Hub as a resource. I think that would be really helpful because as you're doing your internships, you can remind yourself you have all of these skills, or you've touched upon certain skills in the specific internship that you're doing. Maybe not all of them, but you're honing in on that. The next thing we did is we took those skills and the 3 goals that you had in your applications for funding, and we mapped them to those 8 competencies. And you can see the majority of them came out in career and self-development. And if you go back to that slide, what does that mean, career and self-development? It's looking for professional and personal learning and growth. It's awareness of your strengths and weaknesses, career opportunities, networking and building relationships. Okay, learning about other organizations. A lot of you said that's what you were looking for. I read all the social impact ones, and they were looking to learn about the nonprofit sector. So that probably mapped to that area. So we want you to be able to identify these when you're done with your internships, okay? So you can talk about them. So with that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put up a QR code, okay? And I know this may feel tedious, but it's not. What we're gonna do is before we go to the QR code, hold on. One last thing. I'm gonna demonstrate what exactly you're gonna be looking at. You are gonna take an assessment and you'll get a report back for the assessment. And what it will do is if you go down to communications, open that one, the caret there. Oop. If you open that caret, Charles, and keep going down, you're going to get recommendations, okay? And what I want to just say to you is that these recommendations are things that you might already be doing in your classes or in your student orgs or on an athletic team, but you can also be doing some of these things while you're on your internships, okay? Could you open up for teamwork? Let's go to teamwork. Yeah. Okay, it'll assess where you're at, and then it'll say here, okay, participate in a study group or use teamwork apps. So a lot of you are going to be asked to join a Slack group. I know I do a fieldwork course with the international students or anyone who needs credit, and we do it in MS Teams, in Microsoft Teams. We don't use Canvas for the course. And the reason is because in the real world, that's what you're using is Teams. You're not using Canvas. That only exists here in academia. So there's all kinds of recommendations here. And the point here, and you can go off of that now. The point here, go to the QR code, is that we just want you to be aware of these skills and look at some of the recommendations here. You can be practicing some of these while you're in your internship. Okay. So
Because some of you said that's what you wanted to do.
yeah, exactly. I mean, these are your goals. So here's a QR code. It should take about 7 minutes. This is required for part of this, your pre-departure. When you are done, you are free to go. But what I want to say to you before you go is that everyone here is under sort of the auspice of the Middlebury family, and we want to keep you safe. We also want you to have a really good experience. And there are plenty of you who are going to come back and say in the fall, come September, and say, I never want to do X, Y, or Z again, right? I've heard that as an advisor, and that's okay. Now you know, okay? But we also want to make sure that if you are having any problems during your internships, that you reach out to CCI. If you have an advisor you've been working with at CCI, feel free to reach out to them. But in the absence of, say, Cheryl here or Amy, you should contact Tracy or Ursula or any other advisor at Middlebury. Karen also. We want to make sure that you are safe, okay? And that you feel safe. Those scenarios are real and they can feel really uncomfortable, but there's also scenarios that are outside of your control that don't have to do just with communications, okay? They have to do with your safety. So I hope that's okay. All right, let's do this. And everyone, congratulations. We are so psyched for you, and give yourselves a round of applause.